From Tennessee, from the East to the West, we are talking Cowboys everything. And you just entered
the Cowboys Zone.
Welcome back to another week and another episode of the Cowboy Zone. I'm your host, Marcus Jones, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee.
And this is Lambo from Cowboys, y'all, coming out of Johnson City, Tennessee.
All right, Lambo, I was getting a bit of a lag right there. I don't know if that was you or me.
I'm not sure, but your face is frozen. All right, now you're back. You're back. All right.
Okay. Well, it's me
frozen
then.
for a second.
Yeah.
Just a second.
All right. Well, thank you guys all for joining us tonight. I'm sure you guys know. I don't think Lambo got affected by this, but West Tennessee got hit pretty hard by this historic wave of winter weather. And Lambo, did you get affected by it at all?
A little bit. It wasn't extremely bad, but it was cold and snowy and sleety and icy. Just not as bad as y'all in Texas and stuff was.
Well, I'm like Shane. We got hit pretty hard here. It's probably close to calf level in Memphis. It finally stopped, but of course, it's causing problems with electricity and Wi-Fi and the water and things like that. So hopefully I can make it through without any problems. But if not, we got a great show for you guys tonight. We're going to talk about some of the top linebackers in the draft this year. I know you guys are big draft heads, so we want to start covering a couple of positions, giving you guys our thoughts on what we think about some of the top guys at different spots. So before we get started, I know I mentioned the storm here. I want to send out a special prayer for all my brothers, my podcast brothers out in Texas, because I know you guys are really getting hit hard. I know we got Knicks over there. I believe. I don't know if Big Game is in Texas or not. But all you guys that are in Texas, make sure you take care of yourselves. I know we got Mary over there, Star Gang as well. And all of our fans and viewers that are watching as well. You guys stay warm and take care of yourselves in this weather.
Yeah, because we know y'all in Texas ain't used to that.
I'm not used to.
Yeah, were you? Yeah. Like I'm gonna say, we get ice and stuff like that in single digits out here, but like maybe once or twice, because of the mountains and elevation. But I know, like on the western side, y'all, it's kind of more flat out there. Y'all don't usually get that kind of.
Right. And what's up, J Tuck? Thank you for joining us tonight. Make sure you get in the comments. Let us know what you think. Jaquez, I've been following you for a while. Seeing you do your work over there with Boss. So make sure you let us know what you think as well. Beard Gang, thank you for joining as always. Jack Meeker, thank you for tuning in. Mendoza, as always, we appreciate it.
And Brian, I do have the Cowboy Dale shirt it'll be done soon. I had of course, with shipping and stuff, I make them here in my house, but the shirts I use, there was a delay because they were coming from Fort Worth actually. So
good luck with that.
Yeah, so there's been a delay me getting the shirt in that I do my printing on. So, but I definitely haven't forgot about you, and I'll get that shirt out to you soon. That Cowboy Dale shirt.
So now, you got a heat press in your house now?
Yeah, we got my wife got it. It's okay. Nice. It works good. It works real good.
Okay.
She's been using it for her boutique, so I figure now that she's got it, I'll use it. So
exactly, make good use out of that thing.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so guys, let's hop right into it. I want to try to get in and out as soon as possible in case my internet goes down. I did some things last night, and I didn't make it through the whole broadcast. So if I leave out, best believe I'm coming right back. So until then, make sure you guys get in the comments. Like I said before, make sure you like this. Make sure you share it because there are a lot of people out there who do a lot of draft talk. A lot of people are very knowledgeable. A lot of people are still trying to learn the process and who to look at. So make sure you share it to your favorite page so some of these people can get some insight on what we think and what you guys think in the comments as well. So what I want to do to start this thing out, I wanted to list out our top 5 linebackers in the draft right now. And I got some stats on each one of these guys, and we'll kind of let you know what we think about them. And you guys let us know what you think as well about how we got them rated or any other linebackers you want to talk about. All right, Lambo, if there's nothing else, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
All right, so number 5 linebacker. This is actually one of my favorite linebackers. He's been kind of climbing up the rankings for the past couple of months. And this is Baron Browning, senior from Ohio State University. Ohio State has a lot of great linebackers. This is probably the most athletic of the bunch. He has the NFL frame. He may not be the most experienced one of all of them, and we'll kind of talk about that later. But for now, he's listed as my number 5 linebacker. 6'3", 240. Very, very well built guy.
Good size.
Played in 32 games. He's been kind of a rotational guy with, what's his name? Is his name Tough Borland or Ty Borland? He's been kind of shifting at middle linebacker with him. He's played pretty much all 3 positions. So he gives you that flexibility that teams look for.
Yeah.
In
It
the
seems
draft.
like he might be like a 4-3 wheel.
Yeah.
Or 3-4 inside linebacker.
He could play the Sam too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very good. As you can see, I put some of his stats up. You see he has 7 sacks, so that lets you know he has some pass rush abilities. And like Jaquez says, that tackle for loss number, 19 over his career. That's a really good number. He's played for 4 years. He hasn't been a 4-year starter, but he's played for 4 years. So you know he has some experience. And like Tuck said, he has that NFL frame. He's not afraid to hit. You see the 2020 stats are kind of down, but you have to remember Ohio State didn't play a full schedule, so those numbers may look a little skewed compared to some of the other guys that we have listed.
Mm-hmm.
Lambo, I don't know if you really follow Baron Browning, but I mean, I pretty much hit everything on him. Is there anything you want to add about Browning as a player?
No, you see the flashes of production with him.
Yeah.
And you know, I think he's a guy that I could definitely see us targeting. I'm not so sure exactly what round that would be. Obviously he's not going to be our first pick.
Right.
But you know, where do you think you would take him at? 2, 3?
You know, and I talk about this quite a bit in the chats. It's hard for me to put guys in rounds, only because this draft is so deep at several spots.
Yeah.
Like if I were to say cornerback position, I could have 15 guys I think are second round talents, but there's no way 15 cornerbacks going to be taken in the first 2 rounds. So I don't know. I can tell you where I rank them in terms of all the linebackers, but I don't know where that puts them in terms of first round, second round, third round. For a guy like this, if I had to guess, I would put him second round guy. I have him. You know what? I would probably put him third because I may be higher on him than other people.
Mm-hmm.
And number 5 linebacker, that could be kind of borderline. I don't know.
Yeah, that's one of those things where you could see that guy sliding into the third. It's one of those players that you kind of see on the board day 2 of the draft, and you get super excited. And you start putting your tweets out, and you're like, "I'm telling you, if we get Browning in the third, that's my guy."
Yeah.
So, yeah, I could see that happen, especially in a deep draft class.
Yeah. Now, I know Jack Mika puts we don't need another Jalen. Well, one thing about Jalen we have now is not Jalen from college. He's not the same player he was pre-injury.
Yeah.
Jalen was much better than this kid when he was at Notre Dame. And to add on to that, Browning can actually cover. That's actually one of his strengths. And as you can see, I put a quick summary to the right, just putting some of his best and worst traits. Definitely size. He has that prototypical size you want. Very athletic. Like I said, he's played all 3 positions. He's played pretty well at all those. He's a tough kid, plays strong. His instincts, I don't know if it's because he's been in rotation pretty much the whole time he's been there because he's kind of rotated with Borland. And then you had Malik Harrison, who was drafted last year out of Ohio State.
Yeah.
Browning was kind of playing second fiddle to those guys. And another guy I'll talk about later.
Which is some teams may look at as a small concern.
Right.
He didn't separate himself from the pack.
Exactly. Exactly. So I don't know if what I saw was because he didn't get in his own rhythm, or they
There's so
saw
much
he was
talent.
inconsistent, or because it was so much talent, he was just a third linebacker for that team, but he could have been an All-American somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah. And Cole, thank you for joining. Yeah, it's been a while, man. We appreciate you coming back with us.
And hopefully you're much warmer than you were the other day at work.
So yeah, make sure you get back in these comments, Cole. You leave some great comments, and we always appreciate your input. Yeah, and just like Jay Tuck said, it's hard to prioritize where the Cowboys put linebacker at. We have so many different needs, and I talked about this last week. There are so many guard tackles. There are so many corners. Yeah. Like I can name you 15 corners off the top of my head. Like I think all these guys are first and second round guys. I can name you about 8 tackles who I think are first or second round guys. So you just don't know what's going to be there at round 2.
And if we still ain't taking safety seriously,
right.
I have my doubts that they'll take linebacker seriously. Because I mean, has there been any more talks of the Xavier Woods extension?
I mean, we've seen stuff here and there, but you just don't.
I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't like that.
Especially, and even at that price they're talking about, they're saying a $25 million contract. That's like $6 million a year.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, man.
No, we could probably get a top 15 safety for $6 million a year. We don't have to settle for Xavier Woods at that price.
I think that really, going to Cole's question here, I think that would really depend on who's there. I mean, if I'm staring at a Bolton or something in the second round, he might be the best player available on the board for sure.
Yeah.
I would pull the trigger.
Yeah. And Cole, I know you probably missed a couple weeks ago. Lambo and I both talked about the top needs for this team, top 5 needs. And we both had linebacker as a top 3 need because, for one, Jalen's inconsistent. And for 2, LVE is injury prone. So if LVE goes out, you want a guy who can play middle linebacker for you. You don't want to have to move Jalen back to middle. So that makes it pretty high on the priority list. JJ the third. Yep. And Brian, just like I said, based on where they value they value with Jalen and LVE. All right. And Shane kind of piggybacked. Sean Lee is gone as of now. He's not on the team. So LVE was injured. Jalen often out of position. Look at the linebackers we drafted last year. Francis Bernard, we haven't seen anything from him. Gifford hasn't really played.
Yeah, still a question mark there.
Joe Thomas is a free agent, so we don't know what's going to happen with him.
Yeah, it's a little. I mean, it'll be a little scary. You lose LV or Jalen for any part of the season this year. I'm not too. I mean, I would be pretty concerned about that.
Yeah. And Jay Tuck, you hit it on the head. The combine is definitely going to boost some of these guys.
Especially when they come in. One of them's going to run probably like a 4.38 or something stupid, and then he's going to fly up the draft board.
Barron's definitely going to be a high 4.4 guy. There's no doubt in my mind about that one. There's no doubt he runs high 4.4. And him and also Michael Parsons probably going to run very fast. Excuse me. And also Dylan Moses, just some of the top guys people think about. Those guys are really going to run.
It's a Florida linebacker I like. I can't think of his name right now. He might run good.
Yeah.
I don't know why his name's slipping my mind at the moment, but it'll come back to me.
Yeah, and Jaquez, definitely it's the hardest offseason to scout players because a lot of the top guys sat out, and 2020 was just so inconsistent across different conferences. For example, I just talked about Ohio State played 7 games this year, and then you got some other teams played 15 games. Some teams only played 2 or 3 games. So it's really hard to rate what a guy looks like, and it's not always wise to go off 2019 tape to judge a guy. Because some guys can really, we see it all the time where somebody drafts a guy in 2019, the year before he graduated or entered the draft, he looked really good. And then that last year he had a big dip, and you're kind of taking a chance that you can get the guy before, and you don't. That can really be a problem. Oh, and thank you for this, Jack. Joker,
Well,
JOK. Yeah,
at 216 pounds, he better run fast.
he better run fast. I don't know if he'll be a 4.3 guy, but he'll definitely be in the 4.4s. I don't know how I overlooked him.
Yeah, I wouldn't think about it either.
Yeah, and Cole, I agree with you on this one. The combine is just another check the box thing. Sometimes you don't know what a guy's speed look like until you see it in person or their movement skills. You really got to trust the tape when it all boils down to it. But if there's a guy like a Richie Grant, that's kind of the flavor of the week. You see a guy like that and you watch him on tape, you want to make sure that the speed on tape matches the actual speed. Because sometimes you just don't know. He could look fast, but it could be because the competition is slow.
Mm-hmm.
So a guy like that would definitely benefit him to have a good combine. And Brian, we'll definitely talk about this one in a minute with JOK and the weight.
Yeah. I mean, he'd probably play a lot of box safety and sub packages and stuff too if we were to draft him.
Yeah. And Cole asked another question. He asked, would it benefit if we went the veteran route at linebacker and focus on the secondary O-line and take a first-round linebacker next season? I definitely agree we need to go veteran route because, again, our starting middle linebacker misses half the season every year. I don't want to throw a rookie into the fire to be the play caller. I want a veteran backup to step in for him.
That's true, and it's kind of like the win now mode with this team. I know some might laugh at that if they base it off last season, but that would be kind of fair to do that considering all the injuries we had. We know the team or the talent we have on this team. I still feel like it's win now mode, but yeah, veteran would make sense. So I agree there. Someone that can step right in and have leadership. We do have a very young team, so a good veteran in the locker room would help as well.
And just like Jaquez said, we definitely need one in free agency, and I would strongly prefer he be a backup middle. Just because, like I said, with LVE. I don't want to see Jalen get moved back to middle again.
I need to take a look at who's out there right now. I haven't actually taken a look.
Yeah, I haven't really gotten into it either, other than the guy from Seattle who will probably be available. I'm sure there'll be some other names out there as well. I think the Falcons just released their safety, Ricardo Allen, and I think they released a linebacker too. Yep, just like we've been saying.
Yeah, linebacker is one of the positions I'm most concerned about.
Right. I think you had him at number 3, and I had him at number 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we had them both in our top 3.
Yeah. Just one of those things people don't think about. They look at cornerback and say, oh, we need a corner or we need a defensive tackle, which we do. But that linebacker position is very thin.
Yeah, and we seen in the Super Bowl what a great linebacker can do to take over games. I mean, Devin White was all over the field.
Yeah.
He was just around the ball nonstop the entire game. Like, I felt like when he was on defense, he stood out to me almost every single play. I was sitting there thinking, dang, I wish we had Devin White on our team. He looked good.
Yeah.
We also seen what you can add 4 veterans in free agency and take a team to the Super Bowl. So,
yeah. And all right, so we'll go to our number 4 linebacker. Now I know this is where we start to have people coming in with the debates. I know we all kind of disagree on this one. So at number 4, we have Nick Bolton. Now I know some people have him a lot higher than that. I've heard some people have him as their number 1 linebacker. I just disagree. I mean, he put up great stats. I'm a quasi Missouri fan, so I like to watch him play. He has a lot of passes defense, which is actually surprising considering his size. Has nice tackles for loss. He may have the most games played of all the guys I have in the top 5 right now. But the thing that bothers me with him, and you guys can kind of see the best and worst, his size concerns me. Now I know Lambo, you just mentioned a guy like a Devin White, and Devin White is probably about the same size as Nick Bolton. Devin White ran a 4.4 at the combine. I would be shocked if Nick Bolton runs under a 4.6.
You think?
Yeah. He does not look fast on tape. He has a high football IQ, but he does not look fast. And Jack, high floor, I would definitely agree with that. And high floor usually is kind of concerning for me. Well, not concerning. If I can have a player with that I consider a top 5 guy and I can see all his flaws, I would much rather take him than a top 5 guy who I feel like is kind of maxed out on his play. Because Nick Bolton's a senior, 6 foot 230, not very fast. He's not very fluid in his movements either. And this is a great comparison, Mendoza. Great comparison. Denzel Perryman is a great comparison for Nick Bolton. He's just going to be a decent linebacker. He's going to be a guy who's probably going to play in the league about 6 or 7, 8 years. He won't be anything flashy. He'll be good enough to hold down a position. He's a smart guy, so he's always going to impress people. And he's physical. He's one of those guys that's going to make that big hit to make a highlight. And that's what kind of got him on a lot of people's radars. He made a lot of big hits during his time at Missouri, sorry. So, again, I like his toughness. I like his IQ. He's pretty good in space. He's just not athletic. And that comes more from his high IQ. Because you see, I put one of his strengths is zone coverage. That probably explains why his passes defense are so high, because he's able to kind of read passing lanes and get in the way of some passes. He doesn't have a lot of interceptions to go along with it. And like Jaquez says, very instinctive.
Yeah, he does attack.
He's an attacker. You're right.
Yeah, which I like. And we do, like you said, we do need another Mike.
Yeah. He could be a Mike. He could be a Mike Will guy. So if you lose Jalen or you lose LVE, you can kind of throw him in there. Now, one thing that I did notice from watching him play, and anybody I talk about, I watch at least 5 full games to kind of get an idea of who they are. He has a problem disengaging from blockers. So if he can kind of move and shuffle and find the gap and hit it, he's gonna knock somebody out. But if a guard can get a finger on him, it's lights out. He's getting washed out of play. And I saw that way too often against a bunch of teams who run the ball a lot. Like he was getting washed. And there were a couple of games where they would try to line him up to get him one-on-one outside with a running back. He didn't have a chance.
Angles sometimes need to be better.
Yeah. Well, I think it's more speed too. You can have the perfect angle, but if you're not fast enough to get there, you're just not gonna get there.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for a smart guy who can come in and play day one, who won't make a lot of mistakes, Nick Bolton's a guy you would look at. Yeah, and J Tuck, I think enough people like him because he's a smart guy. He's gonna probably interview well. You turn on his tape, you see NFL tackling. So I don't think he'll fall to the second, even if he runs a 4.6.
Probably late first.
Yeah. Now, Dustin Hockett, thank you for joining us. It looks like a new name, so we appreciate your support. Wherever you're watching from, make sure you like that page. Make sure you like this video for all you guys. I'm Bluff City Cowboy, Lambeau's Cowboys. Y'all, I wouldn't call him Josie Jewell. Josie Jewell he's not athletic at all. He's just a really smart linebacker. I wouldn't insult Nick Bolton with that one. Josie Jewell's a good player, but Nick Bolton's a little bit more athletic than that. And Tuck, you just hit the nail on the head. I was just about to say this before I got to Hockett. He's gonna with the way our D-line plays, you have to be able to be big enough to shed some guards or fill in a gap. He's not big enough to do that. He plays very well when he's in open space. He has to be clean to be effective. Yeah. And Jaquez, like you said, he has a lot of tape. That's definitely going to help. And a lot of his tape is good, but when they get their hands on him, it's almost like he just disappears. Like they completely overtake him.
Which is why you don't have to worry about it if you just draft Michael Parsons at 10.
Yep. Right. And like Tuck says, he's just a pure middle, smart guy. He can call your plays probably day one, get everybody lined up. He can read gaps if they're clean, like we said. But yeah, good player. I mean, I have him number 4 as my linebacker, so don't think I'm just completely bashing him. I just have a couple of linebackers I like a lot more than him. Now, so now we go to number 3, and I'm sure we'll get even more. We'll get even more debate and discussion because this was kind of hard for me, especially once we get to number 2 and number 1. At number 3, we got the flavor of the week in December. And before we move on to that, Marlo, thank you for joining us. Do I think he's too short or not fast enough? I think he's both. Great player, smart player, but his length is a problem and his speed is a problem. But his IQ helps him make up for it in college. So to see if that IQ will help him in the league remains to be seen. Everybody's smart in the league. So it's a different ball game. All right, so we go to number 3. The athletic specimen that is Zaven Collins out of University of Tulsa. 6'4", 260. Looks like a defensive end. Oh, and Dominique, thank you for joining us as always. I appreciate your support. I only did top 5, Dominique. I didn't go all the way to 10, but I'm going to throw a couple of names out there who I didn't include in my top 5. So you will get an idea of who I have 6, 7, 8, 9 once we go through the top 5. I really just want to focus on these top 5 guys to kind of get some explanations on this. All right, so Zaven Collins, 6'4", 260. Looks like a defensive end. Moves very well. I love to see him movements.
And he actually played quarterback, linebacker, and safety in high school.
He did. He's an athletic guy. He's very agile for his size. I think that's a good way to put it. His feet are very good for a big guy. And he knows how to use his length. Those things always make you look good. Looking at his stats, 236 tackles. That's a lot. A lot of tackles for losses, a lot of sacks, and a lot of interceptions. The guy was just all over the place. He fills up a stat sheet. Now, you look at the 2020 stats, you see 4 of his 5 interceptions came in 2020. So he really and 4 of his 7.5 sacks also came in 2020. So he really lit it up this season in terms of plays other than tackles.
Yeah. It's nice seeing a guy with his kind of size
getting
4 interceptions.
Yeah.
as well.
And it's just something about seeing a guy that big that moves, that can play,
Mhm.
that just always stands out. Like I go back to Mukwamo, the cornerback from South Carolina last year. He just always flashed to me because he was just a big guy out there at that spot. He just stands out when you see him. That's a good question, Dustin. I think he just it's hard to say. I would probably lean more towards he was the only player they had in Tulsa. So he just felt like he had to make every play. And they pretty much just gave him the green light to do whatever he wanted in that scheme. So if he saw something, he would go for it. He'd be right sometimes, he'd be wrong sometimes, but he would do his thing. He made up for a lot of his mistakes with his length. He's not as fast as people thinks he is. He's an athletic guy, but when you look at him in open space, let me backtrack on this one. I don't know if it's his speed or if it's effort, because when I watch him play, I noticed a lot. If the play was kind of away from him, he wasn't really catching up to it. So I don't know if that was him kind of going half speed if it was away from him, or if it's his speed in terms of just running. Now, I've seen the pick six he got. He looked pretty fast on that play. So I'll assume it's more of an effort thing when it's away from him than actual speed. But I had to put it up there because I noticed that way too often. Now, again, physical player. He's a big guy. He's not afraid to hit. Again, I talked about his agility. Played all over the field. High football IQ. He'll be playing in a safety spot 1 minute and blitzing as a rusher the next. That kind of leads into his zone coverage skills. And, of course, his length. And like Lambo said, he's just an overall versatile athletic guy. Like, what position did you say he played, Lambo, out of high school?
Quarterback, linebacker, and safety. 4-year starter at high school. Quarterback, linebacker, safety.
Imagine a kid at probably, 6'3", 230, probably about 230 in high school, playing safety. Yeah, I bet that was a scary sight.
Yeah.
Yeah, Travis, thank you for joining us as well. Errol Gardner, thank you for joining. Appreciate your support. Yeah, I know everybody's high on him, definitely.
Yeah, I think he would be a great pick.
Yeah.
If we where he might be projected to land at might be really just not in our range.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see him being there in the second, but I also feel like 10 is too rich.
Yeah.
But I like him.
Now, I'll say this, and I'm sure people will disagree with me. He reminds me a lot of Van Der Esch coming out of college.
Okay.
He plays better in the box than Van Der Esch, I'll say that. Everything else, movements,
size,
the IQ, the size, he looks like Van Der Esch out there. And Van Der Esch was a 4'6" guy, which is fast for a guy that's 250, 6'4". That's fast.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think his best position, at least for this team, he could start off as your Sam. I don't know if the NFL speed will be a little bit too much for him, or the NFL processing, because again, he played for Tulsa. They didn't play a lot of juggernaut, so the talent level wasn't always on par with him. So this will be one of those guys, you start him off as Sam linebacker. If he came here, let him learn. Then you see what happens with Van Der Esch, and he could just take over, and you pretty much have a Van Der Esch 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think he would be much better in a 3-4 scheme, playing as an inside linebacker. That could also give you some outside linebacker play, similar to what's the linebacker from Green Bay? I don't know what the linebacker. Yeah, Clay Matthews, kind of like a Clay Matthews type guy. I could see him being a 3-4 inside guy that can give you some outside play as well in a 3-4. And definitely, I see all you guys hitting this trade up from 44 candidate.
Or trade back, yeah.
Yeah. if we were able to get him in early second, even late first, I'd be very pleased with that because I feel like
Oh yeah.
this is the Van Der Esch replacement if we choose so. I mean, we could decide at some point Van Der Esch could be our Sam just to take some of the hits off of him, kind of like we did with Sean Lee.
Yeah.
And I feel like we won't miss a beat. And Jack Meeker asked the question, in Quinn's scheme, isn't there a rushing linebacker? Yes. That's kind of what the Sam linebacker does.
And no running back's going to be able to block him if he comes.
No, tight end either.
Or tight end, yeah. So, hey, that would be a fun weapon.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm looking forward to seeing this combine to see what his measurables look like compared to Van Der Esch. That's something I'm definitely gonna be paying attention to.
And Dan Quinn, I may be wrong, but he probably looked for more of a simple defense, won't he? Where they can fly around, not have to think so much.
To an extent, yes. It's not a complicated defense. Everybody has assignments. It's more about assignment football. Every position has kind of a role. He does a lot of his rushing from the four guys up front with that Sam linebacker bringing it every once in a while. Sam linebacker and that Leo position are pretty much the same, except the Leo is hands in the dirt rushing all the time. The Sam will sometimes have to carry, but it's more if the tight end's on your side, you set the edge. If he's not, cover the flat or go.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. So you want a big athlete over there. So yeah, Shane Odom asked the same questions.
Anybody watching going to be going to the draft?
More than likely, Jay Tuck will be there. I think he's been to a couple of them.
I think it's about I looked it up. I think it's like it's about 7 hours of drive north of me.
So Dominique, going back to your question, I've only done 5, 4, and 3, and at number 5 I had Baron Browning. At number 4 I had Nick Bolton, and then we got number 3 right here. Now number 2 and number 1 is where I had a lot of problems, and I know me and Lambo disagreed on this one. But since I made it, I put my rankings up there. And I promise you guys, this was a coin flip for me because you know how I feel about Micah Parsons.
I already know it's coming now.
Yep. So at number 2, I ended up putting Micah Parsons as my number 2 linebacker. And this is a great quote before I talk about Micah Parsons from Dominique. Richard Sherman on Dan Quinn. He's very direct. Message is on point. You're going to listen. He doesn't mess around, and everything he does is detailed. So I agree. It's all about assignments, doing your job. Something that we didn't have a lot of focus on last year based on the play of the team. So talking about Micah Parsons, like I said, this one was a coin flip because Micah Parsons has been my number 1 linebacker since probably last November. He is what you look for in a linebacker. Physical specimen, physical, explosive, great awareness, great tackler, amazing behind the line of scrimmage. As you guys can see, he's only played 26 games. And if I were to go back, you would see some of the other guys I put up there played 32, 33 games. And he has just as many tackles for losses as them with 10 less games played. And almost as many tackles. Like, he's probably only 10 tackles less than some of the guys I just put up there. And they played 6 or 7 more games.
Yeah, Pro Football Focus said it themselves. They gave him the second highest run defensive grade that they've ever given. It was in his 2019 season.
Yeah. And his calling card is in the backfield. If you put him at the Sam spot, he knows how to read the lanes of the linemen to get guys on the ground. And he played defensive end in high school. He came into camp at Penn State as a defensive end. So he knows how to rush the passer as well, standing up or in the stance if you want to put him down in the stance.
Mhm.
He has great instincts. And
It tells you how good he is
yeah,
and how good or how great he was in 2019. The fact that there's so many considering them their top overall linebacker on the board still,
right.
even though he didn't even play last year. He did that good.
Yeah. Just like Tuck said, he didn't play in 2020. That's
Mhm.
one reason they kind of pushed him down the charts. But his 2019 was so great. And then again, look at games played, 26. He came in pretty much as a freshman and started,
Yeah.
but that was
There
pure athleticism. Last year, he really learned how to play the position and he shined brightly. So he's not very experienced at the linebacker position.
he wouldn't necessarily help us with coverage either. I know we beat Jalen up over that.
Yeah.
You could see the same kind of thing with him.
Well, what I will say is I think he has the ability to cover. I just
Mhm.
don't think they asked him to.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where if you look at college football,
Just the
They-
experience.
right, they only have so many hours they can get with these guys. And
Yeah.
when you have a freak of nature like this, who you know what his strengths are, you just throw the ball out there and tell him to do what he can do. And we'll worry about somebody else doing that other stuff. So I think he has the ability to cover because he has great instincts and he's so athletic. He
Mhm.
just wasn't asked to do it a lot. So again, we got to go to his negatives. Number one is maturity, just based off of the reports we heard.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're true or not. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, the closer we get to April, there will be some video and some photos that will be released if what we've heard is true. And that would definitely make him drop a lot. Secondly, you got to talk about the experience. Again, he only played freshman, sophomore year, basically. Last year, he sat out. First year, red shirt. So and he played defensive end in high school. So he doesn't have a lot of linebacker experience. And he can sometimes play a little reckless, which is typical when you're dealing with a guy who's just so explosive. But his instincts are so good. The times that you see he wasn't supposed to do that, he was so athletic, he was able to make up for it and not give up a big play. So Shane Odom asked, if Parsons and Surtain is there at 10, who do you take? I've been saying this since September.
I would take Parsons.
I've said this on Star Gang. I've said it on here. I would 100% take Parsons. Not even a question. For one, Parsons is the better player. For two, I can name you 5 corners off the top of my head we can get in the second or third round.
That
Who
are
I
just as good as Surtain.
Just as good as Surtain, yeah. And like I said 100 times, if his name was Pat Smith and he played for Arkansas or Ole Miss, he wouldn't have the same clout as he has right now if you just really watch him for what he does and how he plays. He's a good player. I don't want to take that from him, but he's not a special, I can take this guy and he changes around my defense type guy that I would expect at top 10. So yeah, that's kind of where I am on him. And Dominique says we need a super athlete at free safety.
Xavier Woods. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I think we need an intelligent free safety as well that knows how to play deep middle and knows how to read those concepts. We definitely need smart corners that can be physical, fast, weak side linebacker, stout Sam, and a quarterback at Mike. This is a pretty good analysis for what we need in this defense. We also need an athletic Leo position guy as well, which will be Randy Gregory. And J Tuck hit it on the head when I say a reckless play. He does have peaking eyes, but he's just so aggressive. He has a defensive end mentality at linebacker. He's real big on, I got to get the guy on the ground. And that's to his detriment quite a bit. but he's so athletic that even if he takes a couple of steps in the wrong way, he always retraces and makes the play before it becomes a big play. I mean, at least twice a game, every game I saw where he got kind of fooled and he was able to kind of turn his hips, run, and stop a play where any other linebacker, there may be a 20-yard play. For him, it may be a 3-yard play. So my projection for him, I still think he can play middle. I think he has great instincts. I just don't think he's been asked to do it. But this is the type of guy I will put him at the Sam in a defense like ours, which I think is going to be aggressive with that front seven. Let him play behind the line of scrimmage. Let him cover the flat. I think he's going to be the type of guy who's going to make a couple of impact plays. They'll probably be out of position plays, but I think he's going to make a couple of impacts during the year. All right, I see we got Jack Meeker saying Horn is still my number one. Lambo and I both agree with that. Dominique adds on to his quotes about Quinn, saying he brings a simplicity and coverage structure, which still has a multiple style up front. And he does believe in hustling in the front four because he's very high on the front four providing your pass rush. They don't do a lot of blitzing in their cover 3 scheme.
Do you think they would take a look at J.J. Watt? Speaking of that front four.
I think Watt is going to want too much money than we're willing to pay.
Yeah, probably.
And here's my thing about Watt, which I hear a lot of people talking about this, and great that you brought that up. Where do you play Watt at? Do you play him at 3 tech and put Gallimore back on the bench after what he showed us in flashes?
Nope.
You're not starting him over D-Law because that's the other spot he plays.
Yeah.
So if you don't start him at 3 tech, I mean, you could, but what does he really have in the tank? We don't know.
Yeah.
You can start him at 3 tech. You can start him at right defensive end over D-Law. Are you going to put him – left defensive end, I'm sorry. Are you going to put him at right defensive end and have another 290-pound guy playing right defensive end like we did with Tyrone Crawford and Tucker Charlton? I mean, Watt is a pass rusher, but he's 33 years old. So let's not pretend that he's the guy he was 6 years ago.
Yeah. He's living on his name right now.
Exactly. I mean, we basically did that with Gerald McCoy last year. Gerald McCoy was an injury-prone guy, had a great career, came here, got hurt in offseason. He got hurt the year before at Carolina. He got hurt the year before that at Carolina. We saw the signs. I mean, the Cowboys saw the signs too, and they were smart enough to protect themselves in their contract. J.J. Watt could be the exact same thing, but wanting a higher base salary. So yeah. Jay Tuck asked, do I think Parsons is a defensive game changer? I do think that. I think he solves a big problem we had with tackling within the first 3 yards at the line of scrimmage. Van Der Esch, the problem he had coming out of college was he wasn't good in the trash.
Yeah.
Jalen, that was one of his strengths in college, but I don't think he trusts his knees anymore or his foot or whatever it is. He's not the same guy when it comes to playing downhill. I think Michael Parsons can come in and solve that problem at the Sam spot.
Yeah.
And I feel like his instincts are so well and he's so athletic. I think he's the type of guy who can give you one splash play a game. Even playing 40% of the snaps at Sam starting off.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. Dustin, preaching to the choir. I love Adarius Washington. I talk about it all the time. Shane, he is far from Reeves. Very far from Reeves.
I think he's probably not Byron Jones either.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I think a good Byron Jones comparison. Well, I don't want to say this guy's name. in terms of athleticism and size. Tyson Campbell from Georgia. I don't think he has the smarts or the football IQ of a Byron Jones, but in terms of athletic ability and size, Tyson Campbell is a good Byron Jones comparison. And I think he may be a third-round guy, depending on how the cornerbacks roll off the board in round 2. That's why I don't want Surtain in the first. Or that's why I would rather take Parsons in the first. I can get a Debo second or third. I can get Campbell second or third. Those guys are just as athletic, just as talented. Mendoza asked the question about Charles Harris. He would make a good backup rotation guy with Randy Gregory. I think between the two of them, they could probably get double-digit sacks, which is something we haven't had in quite a while at that right defensive end spot. So that's something I would definitely like to see. Florida Cowboy, thank you for joining us again. We need to hit with our picks we've taken. Too many chances in the past. Last year kind of made me see the philosophy change a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a little more optimistic after seeing what we did last year.
Exactly. And looking at the way I think this draft will shape up this year, if we go in with the same philosophy we had last year, there's no doubt in my mind that we'll hit on our first 4 picks. Because the strength of this draft is in rounds 2 through 4. And they're at positions of need. And Dominique, I'm assuming this is about J.J. Watt. You play him at inside D-line or at left defensive end. I mean, you could do that, but Alden Smith cost us, what, $2 million? J.J. Watt's going to cost a hell of a lot more than that. So I don't know if I want to spend all that money to find out what he is. And Florida Cowboy, you're right. Parsons is a risk-reward player, especially on the maturity part.
Farley. I would go. I would put Farley second behind Horn.
I would,
just off potential.
If we're talking potential, I would put Farley over Horn. Farley scares me because of the injury concerns and because of the inexperience. Horn is a little bit more refined than Farley, but Farley is a freak athletically. But I would put both of them over Surtain.
Yeah, I think Surtain could come in and be a solid cornerback too.
Exactly.
But I don't think he's going to come in and be the guy that is going to sell, that you're going to want to buy his jersey because he's elite.
Exactly. Just like I talked about with Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton's a smart linebacker. He's going to do his job. He's going to know his job well. He'll probably be an 8-year player who's just good enough to not get his spot taken, but he's nothing to write home about. He's nothing special. Surtain's the same way, in my opinion. I don't know if I want that at 10. If I just want to play it safe, I have no problem taking Surtain. But if I want to get a guy that I think can be an impact guy, I think I'd rather take Farley or Horn. And if I take Farley, you just got to know in 3 years he may be injured every year. That's just a risk you have to take. And we could talk about that 3 years from now.
Yeah. I think Farley's going to slide. I really do. But I love his potential, but I have this strange feeling he's going to slide just because I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
The Raiders sometimes have been known to take a shot on a risky player early in the draft.
I wouldn't be shocked if Farley runs for a mid 4.3 at 6'2", 190 pounds.
Raiders took a risky cornerback years ago that had heart issues.
A bunch of them. No, that was the defensive lineman that they took with the heart issue, and everybody said he probably wouldn't play a snap. He shouldn't play a snap of football.
What was I thinking? It was a corner. I know there was a corner that had some type of. No, they took Damon Arnett.
Yeah, they took Arnett last year.
There's another guy I'm thinking of though. I can't remember who it was, but it was a little bit earlier in the early to mid round.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I think you're thinking about the defensive lineman.
Maybe so. DJ Hayden, yeah, that's it. DJ Hayden. Was it?
Oh,
Didn't
DJ
he have?
had heart issues?
Didn't he have a heart issue? I
I
believe.
don't remember that, but
I
you're right. They
believe.
didn't take him.
Let me know, Elzar, if it was a heart issue with DJ Hayden. That's exactly who I'm thinking about.
Okay.
But that was an early shot on the guy with a huge risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, they took Garyon Conley, who was a little bit of a risk as well.
Yeah. I knew it wasn't him.
So another Raider pick. Go ahead and take Farley.
Yep. If he falls to him, because he's gonna run fast.
Yeah.
But Maurice Hurst was the one that had the heart issue that they took in the middle round.
I was literally about to say that earlier, J Tuck, and then I lost my train of thought and didn't say it. I was gonna say he'll be your next Cheeto. That's about what he'll give you.
As much as I would like to disagree with that, I can't. Because I love Cheeto coming out of college.
I did too. I can't. Man, I lost it when we picked him. I was like, yes. And yeah, that didn't turn into what I quite expected.
Dominique, thanks for confirming that. So yeah, go back through some of these comments because you guys are really bringing the comments. Keep them coming. Make sure you like this. Again, make sure you share it. We still got the number one linebacker. Everybody already knows who it is, but we got a couple other linebackers to talk about too.
I don't mind them being Claiborne as long as we at least stay put at 10 if they're going to take them. Yeah. I don't want to see no more trading up like what happened with Claiborne. That was a disaster.
Yeah. And Jack Mika, they say Horn is grabby. I think Horn is grabby because he has bad technique with his feet. His feet aren't bad. His technique is just bad. And I think if you get him with a DB coach that can help him clean that up, that'll help with the grabbiness. He takes a lot of bad steps coming off the line. He takes a lot of what they call false steps. And he uses his hands to kind of make up for it. And he takes a lot of false steps at the top of a break too. But a decent cornerback coach can clean that up. Everything else he has. Dominique says Surtain is better than Diggs. Not by a lot, but I would agree with that. I really like Diggs coming out, kind of like a Tyson Campbell, Farley, high potential guys. Farley's on another level athletically than Diggs. But yeah. We definitely need a game changer at 10. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but
it's
I didn't want to say the name, but if you want an impact game-changing guy,
that's your pick.
In this draft, you have to go to the offensive side of the ball. I'll just leave it at that. I won't say a name. But if you want a game changer, you got to go offense at 10. All right. And Florida Cowboy says we can't wait 3 years with the offense we have now. O-line will be old. Got to make a move now. This is a great draft. I know we're talking linebacker, and I've talked about defense. If we need a replacement at left tackle or a replacement at guard, we can get a guy in the second or third round who can sit a year and come in and be a talented guy to take over if we want to let Smith go. And I talked about this guy last week, Walter Little from Stanford. I love what he looks like on tape. He looks like a very athletic left tackle. He was injured 2 years ago. He sat out this past year. Smart guy, strong, good feet, good hips, length. He has everything you want a left tackle except experience. So if you can bring him in and get him in the 4th, 5th round, let him sit for a year, I think he can come in and take over that left tackle spot in a year or two. All right. And Mendoza says Surtain is Claiborne. That's almost an insult, Mendoza. That's almost an insult. I wouldn't call him that bad. Claiborne was awful in college. I don't know what people saw in him. I wish I was doing podcasts back when Claiborne was drafted.
There's highlights of him playing the ball in the air, high pointing the ball. He got excited.
The real highlights was the safeties that he had backing him up, because all he did was play underneath and get burned. And then the Honey Badger would they would see the honey badger flash, and then quarterbacks would go away from him. They didn't go away from him because of Claiborne. They went away from him because of honey badger. Every top, I hate you guys suck me into this, but I say this. Every top receiver Claiborne played in college, he got dusted by him. Every one of them. Go back and watch. And he went top 10. So, yeah. Al Harris is a great DB coach to have for a guy like Horn because they play the same way. Horn is probably more athletic than Harris was, but the play style is what Al Harris will probably draw up on a chalkboard for his corner. Yeah. Dominique, very solid O-line class, especially at O-tackle. There are a lot of versatile tackle guard guys. I think last year's tackle class was much better up at the top because Worth and Thomas and the kid from Louisville, those were some elite tackles in my opinion. In this draft, I only see one, maybe two elite tackles, and then just a bunch of very good guys. There are about 7 or 8 tackles in this draft that could go first 2 days. All right. Florida Cowboy says our first 2 or 3 picks have to be starters. In my opinion, Florida Cowboy, if we do this right, I think our first 4 picks can be starters. If we do it right. Defensive tackle, linebacker, corner, safety, guard, tight end, hint. If we take one of those 6 positions in the first 4 rounds, in the first 4 picks, there's no doubt in my mind the guy we take will be a starter because of the depth that comes in the draft in rounds 2 and 3. Mendoza, I can see what you're saying with that. I just really didn't like Claiborne. I don't hate Surtain. I hated Claiborne coming out. That one made no sense to me. I would have much rather had Drake Kirkpatrick that year. Now,
I thought they were going after Mark Barron.
Yeah, me too.
And then I was like, oh, they're about to get Mark Barron right here. And then Claiborne, I was like, oh.
Now, for you guys that really follow draft stuff, I know Dominique is one of those guys. If you guys remember Drake Kirkpatrick when he was in college, him and Surtain are a lot alike to me. And Drake Kirkpatrick was the number 17 or 18 pick that year. That's kind of where I see Surtain at. I don't see him as a top 10 guy, but if we were to move back to 15, 16, I would have no problems taking him, unless Horn was still on the board. But it's gonna be hard to trade back in this draft. And J Tuck, this is the nail on the head right here.
Yeah,
I don't think they're prioritizing corner like we are either.
Mm-hmm.
So J Tuck, I'm interested, and without saying Pitts, what position would you think the Cowboys would be prioritizing right now if it's not corner?
Man, you know, if it's me, I could kind of see where Dominique was coming from on the show we did, where he had Slater. I could see that being an option.
Yeah, I agree.
Just because the flexibility that he would have on the line. I mean, if Tyron's good to go, good. Throw him at left guard or something. We'll find a spot for him, and he'll be there when we need him when Tyron's done. So
yeah, if you think he's a left tackle,
It'll just depend on how it works. I can see the Cowboys going that route.
And if we believe the reports, we may need a right tackle sooner than we think as well.
Yeah, so there's that.
Yeah, and Lambo and I talked to you guys about this in November. We told you guys those hip injuries can be career enders. So even if he did retire, I would not be surprised because you just don't know with the hip injury, especially at the position he plays, his size. Sharon Terry, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you with your support as well. Florida Cowboy talks about McGovern to play guard. What I would say about that is McGovern could play guard and probably could be a starter. My opinion, I think they try to turn him into the next Joe Looney. where he may be good enough to be a starter, but his value as a swing center guard may be too important to the team because we don't have a real backup at center. So he may be more important to be a backup center than he is a starting guard, just like Looney. And Lambo, I know we're kind of running late. If you need to step out, you're more than welcome to. I got a couple other linebackers I want to talk about that I don't have anything lined up about. But let me go ahead and get this number one linebacker. Everybody knows who it is, but we'll put it up here. And J Tuck says he thinks safety is more important than corner.
I'm with you on that.
Especially in this scheme.
Mm-hmm.
This scheme is pretty much lives and dies off having a safety that can cover deep middle and hide the mistakes of the other 10 guys. All right, guys. So I know Lambo has to go in a minute. So let me hit this number one spot. Everybody knows who it is. Number one, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, better known as the Joker, linebacker out of Notre Dame. 6'1", 220. You can look at the stats. 5 forced fumbles, 7 sacks. One of those guys that plays all over the place.
Definitely built for the passing league.
He is. He's a pass scale linebacker.
Does his size concern you at all? The way Bolton does a little bit?
Yes. His size doesn't concern me in terms of how he plays.
Yeah.
Size concerns me because of position ambiguity, which is what I put as one of his negatives.
Mm-hmm.
I think someone may draft him as a big safety.
I was just about to say I could see him being a safety for us.
He has the intelligence and the instincts for it. And I put 220 up here. I think he's 215. I put 220, assuming he comes into the combine putting on some good weight.
He probably will.
Yeah, but I think he played in college at like 210, 215.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I think I seen 216, the same range, 215, 260.
And look at those tackles for losses, 24 and a half in 24 games. That's ridiculous.
Man, I forgot all about Nnamdi Asomugha.
He flies. Wow, that's a good one. Surtain reminds him of Nnamdi.
I forgot all about
Asomugha. Right. Don't do what Philly did.
Remember when he got that big contract from Philly? I was so mad that we didn't get him. And then he ended up just falling off the face of the earth after that contract. And I was like, okay, never mind. Nnamdi Asomugha.
And Mendoza asked a good question. Is he this year's Isaiah Simmons?
That would probably be more of Michael Parsons.
Yeah.
If he were to not be as expected in year one.
I'm doing bad with names like I've been doing for the past couple of weeks. What's the linebacker's name from Carolina? Not Thomas Davis, which Thomas Davis would be a good comparison for this guy. The other guy who took over at the wheel spot.
Shaq. No.
Shaq. Yeah, Shaq Lawson.
Why am I mixing my Shaqs up?
I know.
I'm trying to say. I said Shaq something. Shaq. I know you know him.
Yeah.
Man, I think
Thomas Davis will be a good comparison, but I think Shaq Thompson. That's the one.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I would say Shaq Thompson is a good comparison for this kid. Because Shaq Thompson could have probably played safety, but they kept him at linebacker. I think Isaiah Simmons had to go to linebacker. I just think he was too big. He was good in college because, again, when you're a supreme athlete like that, you can get by with certain stuff. I also think, Shaq Thompson is a good comparison. And I love how he plays. He plays in the backfield, as you guys can see from the tackles for loss and the sacks. His interceptions and his passes defense are low, which is surprising. But he plays very well in space. Has great instincts. He looks like a safety when he's playing linebacker. Very quick to process plays. Extremely versatile. He played a lot of Will and Mike for Notre Dame. If he could put on enough weight, I think he could probably even get by playing a little bit of Sam too. But I would stick him at Will Mike, even safety. But love him as a player. I can't find any flaws in this game. He's that good of a player. He doesn't get sucked up by tackles like you would see with a guy like Nick Bolton, because he's smart and athletic enough to know how to avoid big linemen in open space and get around them.
The
So
next
that's not
Devin
the
White.
issue. Yep. I don't know if I call him Devin White. I like him a lot. I like Devin White a whole lot coming out of college, but that's a pretty good comparison. Devin White was more of a pure linebacker. I can see this guy going to safety for a team.
Yeah.
But yeah, put him at Will. Whatever Carolina or Arizona does on defense, you plug this guy in on one of those teams and you just watch him work. I hope he doesn't go to Arizona. That would be a nightmare. But Arizona, Carolina, one of those teams. San Francisco, well, their scheme is going to change now, but put them on a team like that, and yeah, you got something. Jack Mika, thank you for joining us. Appreciate that. And
Thanks, Jack.
yeah, for sure. And Jay Tuck says he compliments LV and Jalen well. Here's my concern with that, and this is why I put another chart up I'm about to put up. He does compliment them well, but it's extremely hard for me to believe that they'll move Jalen away from the wheel linebacker spot. I just can't see it. They need to, but I can't see it. Shane Odom wants to do the talk about Philly. Great trade for the Colts.
I don't think they. I see a lot of comments saying they gave him away, but I mean they are getting a third and probably going to be a 1 as well. I think it was 75% of the season he has to play for it to be a 1.
It was 75% or 70% to make the playoffs.
I think he'll probably play that 75%. We'll see, but a 3 and a 1 ain't too bad for a guy that was looking like hot garbage.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it, that's Frank Reich is his old OC when he first came into the league, so there's no learning curve there. The team is built to run the ball. Great O-line, so that takes a lot of pressure off of him. He gives you pretty much what Andrew Luck gave them a couple years ago in terms of athleticism. Not as accurate. They got a bunch of great tight ends, which of course you know he loves.
I was just that's crazy you said that. As soon as you stopped talking, the first thing I was gonna say is I'm already looking forward to drafting his tight end in fantasy. Whoever it is, because you know he's gonna go to him.
Yep. Oh, hold on one second.
Fantasy favorites.
Lambeau calling it 9 months early. Whoever the Colts tight end is, make sure you draft them. All right, so yeah, in terms of Joker, not a lot of weaknesses in this game. And again, it was hard for me to put him over Parsons, but Parsons' issues in terms of off-field stuff have me concerned. And I don't know what he's going to look like in the locker room. Joker's going to come in and be a leader day one, and that's something you can't put a value on. This is a good comparison too, Dominique. Tevin Smith, but faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he will make a great wheel, though. I agree with that. You talk about Mo Alley
Cox.
I think this kid may be is Alley Cox going to be the starting tight end in Indy? They have like 5 tight ends. Don't they have the guy who was in Philly with them? The kid from Florida who played quarterback. He signed the big contract with Chicago.
Come on, Brandon.
I know somebody put in the comments.
I didn't Trey Burton.
Trey Burton, yeah. He's with Indy. And Mo Alley Cox is the guy that kind of stepped up because all their tight ends are injury prone in Indy. They got the big receiver that I loved out of USC last year. So this will be his chance to step up and make some plays. So they got some weapons in Indy. And the Eagles were able to get off that big contract. They took a huge cap hit this year. Next year, they'll save all their money. I don't think Joker played with Jalen. I think he may have been right after Jalen. I don't think they got a chance to play together. This is a great question, Shane. The problem with that is Ertz is going to cost them. Ertz is going to cost some money to trade for him. So I think they would just probably wait and see what the Eagles do with Ertz. And more than likely, they'd be the first one in line to sign him. I don't think they would trade for him, though. Yeah, and Pittman was one of my favorite receivers coming out of college last year at USC, Michael Pittman Jr.
Yeah, I got in a big Facebook debate with some random dude that called me an idiot because I thought Pittman and Claypool were going to be
right
really good wide receivers in the league, and he was like, "You're an idiot. Those guys aren't first round talent." And I was like, "I think they're late first round talents." He's just like, "I wouldn't even take either one of them in the top 3 rounds." It's like, okay.
So yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, you did call that one. You talked about Claypool from almost the first day of the draft.
Yeah. He turned out to be good, at least so far.
All right. So before I get out of here, Lambo, I'm going to hit my top 5 Cowboys linebackers. And if you need to get out, you're more than welcome to step out because I know you got to get up early tomorrow. And I see Mendoza put up Amari Gaynor. That's the linebacker from Florida State. I think earlier, Lambo, you were talking about the Florida linebacker. I think that's who you were thinking about.
Was it Amari Gaynor?
And Jay Tuck says reports are showing Ertz to the Chargers. They got their tight end in LA. You think they're going to go too tight? Hey, Buddha, thank you for joining us. Thanks for tuning in. I mean, I'll probably be here another 20, 30 minutes or so. I know Lambo has to leave early, but I got a little bit more to talk about in terms of these linebackers. Do a quick recap before we move on to who I think is the best fit for Dallas. My top 5 linebackers, or our top 5 linebackers in the draft. Number 5, Baron Browning, Ohio State. Number 4, Nick Bolton, University of Missouri. Number 3, Zaven Collins out of Tulsa. Number 2 is Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons out of Penn State. And number 1, we got the Joker, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah out of Notre Dame.
You know what? I was thinking of Ventrell Miller, and I forgot he's actually returning for a 5th year. So
Okay.
Never mind on Ventrell Miller. I'll speak about him next year.
Dominique, I don't think we need to make fans feel better about him because most fans think he's the best corner in the draft by far. I think what we would need to do is explain why he's a good corner, but he's not. There's not a wide gap between him and corners 2 through 8. I think that's the discussion that needs to be had. And Shane, again, I'm with you. I'm leaning towards Parson. I like him in terms of helping us with our run defense, and he could possibly take over at middle. So now, with that being said, Lambo, you need to go, or
yeah, I better.
right.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
And just to let everybody know, yeah, I work at 4 a.m. It sucks, and it's like 10 o'clock here, so I got to bounce out. But I am looking for a new job, and once I have a new job, I will be able to get back to where we was doing the 2 hours and all that good stuff.
All right, so before you get out of here, Lambo, let them know where they can find you at. Let them know your social media.
at Cowboys Y'all on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Patreon, and Instagram is Cowboys Y'all 88. And like I said, hopefully soon with this new job, I'll definitely be able to stick around a lot longer and get back to doing some Cowboy Dell videos, which I can't wait to do that. So
Yeah.
definitely tune in for that.
All right. Well, Lambo, thank you for joining in, man. Appreciate it. Next week, we'll definitely come back with another show. So, guys, make sure you come back, see me and Lambo talking. I'm going to hang here for a few more minutes. I still got some linebacker talk to do. So, keep those comments coming. Make sure you like this. Make sure you share it. Make sure you keep bringing these great comments because you guys are really having a great discussion right now.
Definitely. Thanks, Elazar. You too, man.
All right, Lambo, I'll see you.
All right. See you, man. See y'all.
All right, guys. So, Lambo's gone right now. So, I'm rolling solo. So, you guys really need to bring it in the comments. Keep the comments coming. Talk to me. Let me know what you're thinking. So, now I'm going to bring up who I think are the top 5 linebackers for Dallas. Now, like I said before, when J Tuck brought up the question, I don't think Dallas is going to move Jalen from the wheel spot. I just have a feeling he's been through, three different coordinators. If you count Richard, he's always been the wheel. Last year, surprisingly, he was the dime backer, which made no sense to me. So because of that, I just can't see them moving him from the wheel spot. So I feel like whoever we draft has to be a Sam middle guy. So right here, I put my top 5 linebackers for Dallas. The best guys I think they can play that Sam/middle spot starting out. And Dustin Hockett, you asked the question about a top 100, and I got Jabril Cox up here, one of my guys. He's just outside of my top 5. And like I said before, right here, Dylan Moses. Everybody loves Dylan Moses. I'm just not on that train in terms of loving him. If you want a linebacker and you just want to sculpt a linebacker from scratch, athletically, you probably want Dylan Moses. He's been recruited by teams like Alabama since the 8th grade. The problem with Moses is he makes a lot of mental lapses. Like if you guys think Jalen misses on assignments, this kid missed at least 2 or 3 assignments every game that I watched. Every game, without question. No matter if it was Clemson or LSU, the top team in SEC, or one of those Division II games that they blow out. He misses assignments often. That's a concern for me when I'm looking for a top linebacker. I see J Tuck put his guy McGrone up here. I like McGrone too. He's just outside of my top 10. He's a good linebacker. The other 5 guys I got, I just like more. In terms of Moses, athletically, he's right there with all of them, but the missed assignments does it for me. And then also Chad Surratt. I had Chad Surratt as a top 5 linebacker until I watched some of that Senior Bowl, and his weaknesses became too glaring. He has a deficit of length. His arms are short. He's a lot shorter than I thought he was. I thought he was going to be 6'2", 6'3". He came to the Senior Bowl 6 feet, 6'1". I still love his movement skills. I think he'll make a good wheel linebacker for somebody, but he also misses a lot of tackles. Now, that could come from him playing quarterback the first 2 years of college and still learn the linebacker position, or it could be because of just the lack of length and not being able to wrap up. But he misses way too many tackles for me to have him as a top guy. Yeah, and like Dominic said, I didn't even talk about the knee injury, but he looks lost often. Thank you for backing me up on that. I mean, literally, at least 2 or 3 plays a game, no matter what the level of competition. You can see a guy open in the flat, and you know it's Moses' guy. Now, I still have Surratt on my board. I'm not that off of him, but he's definitely on the back end of my top 10 or just outside of it. I think he'll still probably be an early day 3 guy just because of his athleticism. McGrone, I didn't want to put McGrone up here because again, I'm looking for Sam middle guys, and I don't think McGrone has the size to be a Sam. But I like him as a player. He definitely got inside of my top 10. Yeah, and Mendoza bringing up Garrett Wallow and Grant Stewart. I'm not familiar with Grant Stewart, so I got to write that name down and make sure I look him up. I see you guys putting some other guys up here. And Dominique, I went to Ole Miss, so you know I watch every game. That's the one game I was going to point out. You want to see what he is as a player, watch how their running back was eating his lunch. That's a great game to put up there for people to see what he is. Now, if Moses is their third round and I don't like the crop of safeties or corners that are available, I'll probably take him right there if I haven't taken a linebacker already. But I would probably have to pass on him unless he's just like a blinking light. And now we got Jabril Cox. So Dylan Moses is good enough to make my top 5 because of his athleticism. But he has to be in a position where he's playing 40% of the snaps and his role is very clearly defined. He needs to know, he needs to blitz, he needs to cover this spot, and he needs to use his athleticism to go all out. Anything other than that, I don't think I could trust him at Mike. Now, Mendoza, you say you're getting Bernard vibes. Who are you getting Bernard vibes about? I'd be interested to see who you meant with that. So now we go to Jabril Cox. And Dustin Hockett asked, what are Cox's weaknesses? Cox, his biggest weakness is probably just, I don't know if it's a weakness. I think it's we don't know what he is as a player still. For you guys that aren't familiar with Jabril Cox, he was a graduate transfer from North Dakota State. North Dakota State Division III school. They play some good football there, but it's not SEC. So he transferred to LSU, played one season there. Looked pretty good. Showed he was able to hang with the big boys. But there are still questions about his talent level. So the only weakness I have on Cox is I still need to see him play up to a high level of competition. And J Tuck, like you said, McGrone, he's a green player, still very young player. I don't even know if he's old enough to drink yet. And definitely he's not a Sam guy. I feel like if Dallas takes a linebacker, it has to be a guy who can start at Sam and eventually take over in middle. So these are kind of the guys that I pointed out for that. Now, Jabril Cox is also green and raw, even though he's a graduate guy. Just a different level of football coming from North Dakota State and LSU. Kind of like what I talked about with Micah Parsons earlier. When you have a guy that's just an athlete, same with Zaven Collins, you just put him out there and let him do what he does. And I think that's what Cox got away with a lot in North Dakota State. And he came to LSU. He showed some good things to make you think, you know what, he could play on a high level. So it still remains to be seen. He could actually move up a lot depending on what his combine looks like. He could arguably be one of the top linebackers in this draft. We just don't know because we haven't seen him enough. So we go to my number 3, Baron Browning, the first guy in my top 5 on this list. Again, athletic specimen, versatile player. He's probably the only linebacker on this list who I could play at will, Mike or Sam. That's just how versatile he is. The problem with him is he played in a rotation in Ohio State. There were quite a few other linebackers at Ohio State who played as good or better than him. But just from a talent standpoint, matched with the production, he's probably the best of all of them. And Dominique is right. No real splash plays. Like I said, he's a raw player. He stepped up in competition, so we don't really know what he is in terms of diagnosing. Needs reps, exactly. We're always on the same page, Dominique. 100%. We just don't know what he is yet. I don't see a weakness in his game. I just don't know what he is as a player. And just like Mendoza said, all the guys on this list are guys we can put at Sam to start off. And if something happens with a Van Der Esch, we can throw him in the middle and not miss a beat. So then we go to number 2, Zaven Collins. Talked about him before. Love him as a Sam. Probably the best Sam on this list just because of his size. Michael Parsons plays a little bit better against the run than Collins. That's why I have him number 1. But if I want a Sam linebacker who can rush, I want a Sam linebacker who can carry a tight end. I want a Sam linebacker who can play his zone and use his length to cover that area. Zaven Collins might be the best of the bunch. But Micah Parsons and his ability to rush and his ability to play in the backfield in terms of tackles for losses and sacks is far above all of these guys on this list. So Dustin Hockett says, isn't North Dakota State the Alabama of D3? 100% they are. But again, it's D3 football. D3 football is what, 2 steps above junior college? And the SEC is 2 steps below NFL. Huge difference. Huge difference. I mean, there have been, like, literally, if you take a 3-year span of Alabama and put their best players on one team, they could beat some NFL teams. I know people don't like to have that discussion about could Alabama beat insert whoever had the worst record in the NFL. If you take a 3-year span of the best players in Alabama for a time frame and put them on one team, I'm confident they could beat an NFL team. Great question, Mendoza. Would I compare Cox to Queen? Queen is definitely more polished in terms of size, speed, athleticism. They're probably pretty close. I think Queen may be more athletic, but again, Queen played at that level for 3-4 years. Cox only played for 1 shortened season. So we got to give him a chance to grow a little bit into the position. And I think putting him at Sam linebacker, giving him 40% of the snaps, letting him get in a position group with some veterans, that would do him a lot of good going into like his 2nd or 3rd year. And Florida Cowboy says you may as well start him. I mean, if LVE gets hurt, you know you got a guy who can fill in right there, at least from an athleticism point. And Cox, he does look good in coverage. That's his strength because he's an athletic guy. His athleticism shines on camera, but you just don't know what he is because he hasn't played at this level. Very hard guy to evaluate. This is the type of guy where we could be looking at the draft 3 years from now, and we'll be wondering, how is it that Jabril Cox went in the 3rd or 4th round? This will be one of those guys that we look at like that. Browning at 44 is where you have to get him. I can agree with that to an extent. He may not last to 75. And like I said before, I talked about this in the chat room. It's hard to gauge round 2. Very hard. There are so many safeties that are good. Well, not safety, but there are so many corners. 7, 8, 9 corners. 6, 7, 8 tackles. 3 or 4 guards. A couple of defensive 1 techs and 3 techs. We just don't know how that 2nd round is going to play out. Quarterbacks, because I don't think a lot of these guys are going 1st round. There's going to be a lot of talent in that 2nd round that's going to make a guy like a Baron Browning maybe fall to the 3rd. in my opinion, there's going to be a tackle or a linebacker or a corner that falls to the third that everybody's like, I can't believe that guy's there. JUCO is raw. So yeah. Definitely a couple steps down. There's no comparison. And Dustin, there'll be a run on DBs and O-line. It's hard to say. Those are the biggest depth positions, I agree. But I just don't know. Like, there are probably 8 corners that I really like in the second round. It would be hard for me to believe that 8 corners go in the second round or 14 corners go in the first 2 rounds. That makes me think there's going to be somebody that falls. There are probably about 7 or 8 guard tackles I like. It's hard to believe that many guys go in the second. But it could happen. And if that does happen, then you're going to see a guy like Baron Brown and go Dylan Moses sitting there in the third round staring you in the face, or one of those safeties. And Marlo asked, would you bring Joe Thomas back? He would be a starter on other teams. He gives you depth. Now, this one is a tricky one. Does Joe Thomas want to come back? That's one question. The second question is, can you get a guy in the draft who you think will be better than him? Because we still haven't seen Francis Bernard on the field yet. And I'm still in love with Francis Bernard, just for the record. We don't know where he's going to play at. Joe Thomas was pretty much our starting Sam last year. Guys, do you start them over Thomas? And if you do, does that make Thomas worth $3 million to have on your team? I don't know. Linebacker isn't that good this year. It's weak at middle. That's a good point. It is pretty weak in terms of the depth. And the guys who are athletic, I would agree. Barron may be the most talented of the athletes, or the most NFL ready of the athletes in this draft. When you look at a Dylan Moses, guys like that. I mean, I love Joe Thomas too, but the price has to make sense as well. And like we talked about Gifford before, we don't know what they're going to do with Gifford. Gifford still should be under contract, I believe. And there's also a kid on the practice squad. I don't know if he has a shot or not, but I love them coming out of college. And that is Azur Kamara out of Kansas. If you guys want to see a physical freak, please go watch Kansas and Azur Kamara. I believe he's 6'3", 245, probably ran 4.445. In that scheme, he played outside linebacker. In a 3-4, he played defensive end. He played wheel linebacker. And he lined up a little bit at safety. And he's on our practice squad right now. This could be a guy who takes a leap into the second year and takes one of those roster spots, because he was kind of raw coming out of college. But the athleticism is there. Dustin Hockett asked the question, is Molden a corner or safety? Same question with Holland. That's a great question. I think they're both corners, personally. Molden is probably a top 10 corner, right there in that range, borderline. Holland, I just don't like Holland as a corner or a safety, honestly. He's not that athletic. He's a smart guy. He can play well in the zone, but his feet and hips are not good. So if you put him at safety, I think he has a better chance of being drafted higher than you do if you put him at corner. So if he wants to get drafted higher, put him at safety. But I still don't think he's going to go high either way. I would love to see Kamara play in Randy Gregory's spot. I think he may need to put on another 10 pounds or so, but the athleticism is there. I think he can at least come in and give you some snaps at Sam, or just come in and be a special teams guy because of the athleticism. And he's a great tackler too. Molden. Good follow-up question. People are afraid of Molden because of his height, but that height doesn't scare me. I think Molden can play outside as well as inside. Same thing for Samuels out of Florida State. That height doesn't scare me to put him on the outside. All right, guys. So that's pretty much all I got for linebackers. I got a couple of other names I want to throw out there, just so you guys can have some other guys to look at. I know Mendoza threw a couple of names out there earlier in the comments that I need to go take a look at. But number one, I made a post about this, and Dominique made a comment on it. Pete Werner from Ohio State. When I watched Baron Browning play, Pete Werner kept flashing. He's almost as athletic as Browning. Looks like he's a smart player. He has the movement skills you like. He has the versatility you like. The problem with him is he gets sucked into head fakes and pump fakes way too much for a linebacker. I don't know if that's something you can solve in terms of an NFL program, but if you can solve that, he's a plug and play Sam. I would probably put him over Moses if he can solve that problem. Moses is out of position, but this kid just falls for the bait way too much. Another guy that I really like at linebacker is Patty. What's Patty's last name? Patty Fisher out of Northwestern. Patty Fisher is one of those guys, super smart. Come in day one, pick up your scheme, be a leader in your locker room. His athleticism is lacking. And because of that, he misses a lot of tackles. Like he gets head fakes or jukes put on him, and he's on the ground. But if you need a guy to play the Sam, know his role, cover the flat, set the edge, do his job, Patty Fisher is a good guy to look at. He'll definitely be a day 3 guy. His athleticism will determine whether or not he's drafted. Just one of those things you got to be aware of. And somebody asked a question about the guy at Stanford. I'm assuming you're talking about Paul Adebo, cornerback. Love Paul Adebo as a player. I had him as a first rounder last year. I still have him in my top 10 this year. He just makes plays on the ball. Smart guy. Looking forward to seeing what he runs as well, because a good combine for him could probably get him pushed into their top 5, maybe even top 3 discussion, in my opinion, if his time looks good. I doubt it, but you never know. And Mendoza says, give me Molden at 75. I got to do corner talk one day. The only reason I haven't done corner talk is because the corner position is so deep. I could probably go 20 deep talking about corners. And that might be a 4-hour show. So if I do that, I see Nick's join us, man. Appreciate it. I'm on the tail end. Thank you for joining us. If I do corner talks, that's when I have to bring a guy like Nick's in, because I know Nick's doesn't mind going 2 or 3 hours talking about this stuff. And once you get into cornerbacks, that's about how long it takes, because it's so many guys with so many different skill sets and so much potential. And Mendoza, I'm sorry. I keep saying combine. I forgot the combine is not going to happen this year. It's going to be the pro days, which will probably start mid to late March, leading up to the draft. So, excuse me, I keep saying combines, but I mean what they're going to run at their pro days. A 5th round for Warner all day. I agree he's going to be a day 3 guy. It just depends on where. If that's the guy we're looking at, I have no problem with that. I feel like you can solve his problems. He has everything else you need for a linebacker: experience, athleticism. He just takes the bait. All right, guys. I see the comments are kind of dying down. Thank you, everybody who's joined us so far today. I appreciate all these good comments you guys have been bringing. You guys, as always, you fuel the show. We don't bring in a lot of guests because we appreciate you guys just as much as any guest we can bring in. You guys are extremely knowledgeable. You teach us something every week. You give me something to go back and do my homework on. So I appreciate you guys all taking the time to check us out, spend a couple hours with me, talk some Cowboys football, give me your insight. And I just hope you guys continue to keep following. Again, I'm Bluff City Cowboy on Facebook, Instagram. I'm Bluff Cowboy on Twitter, Bluff City Cowboys on YouTube. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure you go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm securely over 100 subscribers right now, but I'm still trying to get to that 200, 300, 500 level. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you go to my YouTube and subscribe. And another question coming in, Richie Grant. I think we can give that one up now. That Senior Bowl, even before the Senior Bowl, I had him as a third round guy, like early third round. Senior Bowl probably moved him up at least half a round. So I think he's at least a mid-second round guy. So yeah, and I appreciate the compliment, Mendoza. And I know you watch a lot of podcasts, you watch a lot of different people, and you're a very knowledgeable guy. So from getting something like that from somebody like you, that really does mean a lot. All right, guys, I think that's pretty much it. Again, appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to join us next Thursday night, 7:30 Central Standard Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for another episode of the Cowboy Zone. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. I saw somebody put in the comments they want us to talk about free agent linebackers. We may do that. We may go into corners. I really just try to get a feel for what the discussions are in the different chat rooms and kind of go off that. So I'll let you guys know by Tuesday exactly what we're going to talk about. So again, for myself and my co-host Lambo that had to leave early, I appreciate you guys joining. Be sure to tune in next week again, and we'll see you next week.